Welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Music. I'm your host, StereoRuss. I'm here once again on location. I'm doing the rounds, and I am in probably one of the coolest places. I don't want to throw shade to anyone else, but this place is phenomenal. Downtown Hamilton. I am in tape.com.
Yeah, I guess that's you could say tape.com, or just tape, whatever you. These days, we're not referencing the name of it that often.
Fair enough. I just loved the website idea with like how many times can I use the word tape, and there we go.
I think that's how many times we needed we could get the URL.
Yeah, it's a great move. I'm here with Adam Bentley.
Thanks for having me.
Adam, thank you so much for having me in your space at Tape Studio, Tape Land.
Tape, whatever. Yeah, no, I'm glad to have you here. And as I was mentioning while we were setting up, for a while, for like many years, we had lots and lots of artists, lots of bands. I had a movie podcast going here, all these. And now it's mostly just Jordan and I, who's in Allegories with me, using the space. So it's been a little bit quieter. So it's nice to add some chaos back in here with cameras. Reminds me of the days of doing like full nil live streams during COVID, where we had I remember the videographers we lost 1 inch here. We couldn't film this.
Oh, yeah.
That's how tight it was.
Yeah, because it's like a 20 by 20 space, which is like not that small, but when you have all the equipment and all the cameras and the gear, yeah, it's like every little bit matters.
Yeah, for sure.
So for those that don't know you, and if they don't know you, they know in some way, shape, or form the work that you've done. I'll say that. Tell us all kind of who you are, what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been the kind of operator of Auteur Research for 16 and a half years now, and it's a marketing company and a PR company that I started because I was in a band and needed to get press for my band. Was getting lots of press for my band, the Rest, which was a Hamilton 7-piece monstrosity that I had. Very aughts, very indie rock, very messy, 7-piece band with 12 pieces worth of gear that every promoter instantly looked at us and went, maybe I shouldn't have had these guys.
Maybe not.
Then we would play, and then 50% of the time they were like, maybe I shouldn't have had these guys. And 50% of the time they were really, really excited. But
yeah.
So that I was doing that work for the band, and then Dan Aiken, who ran Catherine North Studios, and I was studio managing at that point, said, "You should do this for some of my artists." And I said, "Oh, would I charge? Like what?" He's like, "Yeah, you charge. You can make some money off of this."
Yeah.
And I went, "Okay."
And you're like, "How much money?"
And then he told me, and it wasn't that much money.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing in the
but it's music, and that's where I wanted to be. And it just been word of mouth, and it's always been word of mouth from day one. I've never solicited. Actually, that's not true. One time I sent an email to an artist, maybe in around 2010.
Was it like as a tester, or was it someone that you really wanted to work with?
I just thought they were awesome. It was a friend of mine sent me their music, and I was like, maybe that's what I should do. Just tell people their music is awesome, and then tell them that they can work with me. And I instantly sent it, and I went, I feel just something's wrong with this.
Doesn't feel right.
It didn't feel right. It didn't, and I never did it again. And for me, the philosophy was, if people don't email me and want to work with me, and if that happens one day, then I'm not doing something that has any value anymore, and I'll stop doing it.
Yeah.
And I've been fortunate that that hasn't happened, and it grew into, there's now 6 of us on the team, and we're bolted on to another company called Official Community, which is, they do a lot of e-commerce and ticketing and VIP and gamification and loyalty, and their rosters like all of these fantastic giant artists like James Taylor and Santana and Elvis Costello and Sarah McLachlan, who released her first song in 8 years, and they're doing a lot of their kind of one of those kind of functions, but they're building this new kind of all-in-one self-management platform. There was room for us to kind of live in that space, and for the first time I wanted a lot of these resources that I've been kind of dying to have, and it's like, oh, they have a development team that does these things, and they need to offer marketing services to their artists as well.
Sure, of course.
And they need to be thinking about how things are changing all the time. And we need to be thinking about how we can offer all of these things all the time. And that was a big component of it, was everybody needs more now. And it was getting to a point where I needed to be a lot bigger, a lot smaller even.
What do you mean by that?
So I either needed to be like, I work with 5 artists and it's just me, and then it starts feeling like I'm a manager, which I've never wanted to be. I just don't have the right mentality to be a manager. I see great managers every day. That's not me. I care about every artist, but maybe that's the problem too, is if I was a manager, my obsession button that I have shut off into neutral right now, it just like automatically would switch in the back of my neck, and I would never be able to turn it off.
Right.
Be like a robot that's gone wrong for my brain.
Okay.
So that's happening. That's really exciting. That's like just 2.5 months in now.
Yeah.
It's a big change for me. And yeah, I still make music. I have a project called Allegories with Jordan Mitchell, who's in the rest. We are releasing music all the time now after taking 14 years between our first and second record. We're not going to take as long to get to number 3.
What are you, a Tool?
Yeah, we made our Lateralis and just was like, nah, you know what? How do we make Allegories Schism? Or that was on that record, right?
Yeah. Nailed it.
Nailed it. On that day, I remember 3 records came out. Tool, Lateralis, REM's maybe Around the Sun, or I don't remember exactly. This is how memorable it was. And then the Green Album by Weezer. They all come out in the same day. And they all, in my opinion, suck.
Oh, yeah.
Like, compared to, I was a fan of all of them.
I was going to say, compared to their previous work, they were a letdown for you.
They were a huge the Pinkerton, the Green Album, you know.
Yeah.
I think Tool fans may disagree with me, because a lot of Tool fans wanted them to go proggier, and
yeah.
I did not.
Yeah. This is going to be the first argument I'm having on Inside the Music.
So you love
Lateralis is actually like a top 5 album for me, but like that's the end of the show, everybody. Thank you all so much.
I get it. Like if you like a certain aspect of Tool.
Oh yeah. I think it was in grade 9. So like I think pretty much if I looked at all the albums that I bought in grade 9, they might be my favorite. Like Queens of Stone Age is
Songs for the Deaf.
Yeah, like that one came out around the same time. That's one of my favorite albums. So there might be something about like my adolescent brain and like every album at that time.
No, there's I think truth to that. When you get into something and you love something, I think it becomes part of your DNA. I remember listening to that record. All my friends had gone and listened to it in the dark in some house in some basement, and they were like, "Yeah, mind blowing. It's the best thing I've ever heard." And I don't think that helped. And then I remember going home and listening to it with a couple other people, and we were like, "Okay, we're now the next group that's going to listen to this. Is going to change our lives." And it did not.
Oh.
And I just remember whatever the big 12-minute thing where he's got that giant scream. Like
didn't do it for you?
Like that was, I think, where I understood. Like, I understand the fans that love that one.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
There was the line that it passed, and honestly made me like kind of forget about Tool. So I'm much more of a fan of when he was performing in that era, when he's on the Deftones track Passenger from White Pony. Like that's kind of what I wanted him to do.
Yeah.
Well, I love that we're talking about Tool so quickly on this show, even though I thought we wouldn't get to that for another 10 minutes.
This is you know, it's funny when someone like says that 4-letter word, that's where the
like
conversation
instantly
goes.
I'm going to be hated on, because the Tool fans that loved that record, it did change their lives.
So that actually brings me to a question. So if not Tool,
that's why we're here, right?
Yeah. Wait, I have questions. If not Tool, because I know like your music is electronic, like who maybe back then or now do you go to for inspiration?
So it's an interesting way I get there, because I started as a rock fan. Like my grunge music and alternative music were my foundation. You know, whether it's Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, like Soundgarden, all of that. Yep. That's like the first me music that wasn't like my parents, right?
Yeah.
And then I think indie rock was a huge thing for me. But I always was listening to, even in high school, I would have been listening to like Boards of Canada and Aphex Twin and things like that. So Jordan and I actually put up a playlist of all the stuff we listened to in high school that kind of connected us. And there was hip hop there, Nauseomatic or Cannibal Ox, The Cold Vein were two massive records for us. And that production, and I loved noise or experimental music as well, and at the same time of getting into like Wolf Eyes or Finesse, and Jim O'Rourke, who works in all of these different spaces where he could make a Southern fried kind of like genius pop record like Insignificance, and then work with Wilco, or then eventually work with Joanna Newsom, or be in Sonic Youth, and then he could make electroacoustic music with Finesse and PETA and blow my mind in ways that I didn't expect. Like, I'm a singer, really. If somebody asked me what, I can play most of these things in here somewhat.
Mm-hmm. But singing is your primary.
That's the thing that I would think I'm really good at. Mm-hmm. Where I'm passable on the guitar, I'm passable on keyboards. I could fit into a band and do those things, but I never learned other people's songs. So that's the other thing. Like, it wasn't until I was in my 20s that we did a cover in The Rest, and that was the first song I ever learned to play on an instrument.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy to me, because if you come off as this energy of like someone who was like born in music, but it's like it's interesting how we all navigate their different paths. Right?
I instantly started trying to write my own songs, but I was obsessed with listening to music.
Right. Okay.
So like, Paul Kohler, who's in Silverstein, and I were best friends growing up, and I remember the day he got his drum kit, and him and I would watch Much Music all summer long, and then he was one of the first people that had the internet, and we could get in there and message people. This is my first way into the music industry too, is Paul built a website with our record label called Rocco Records.
Shout out Rocco Records.
Rocco Records, which was named after an SCTV character from the Days in the Week, their fake soap opera. And Rocco Records had this full site, because no one could design websites at that time, but Paul took a course over the summer where this guy...
Like a basic HTML or whatever?
Yeah, like this is like 95, maybe 96, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And Sonic Onion Records in town had a website, and he just basically like made our website kind of look like theirs.
Like it.
And our band, The Wedges, was named after The Wedge, the Much Music program.
Yeah.
And eventually Rampike, that it became, was signed to Rocco Records. And it was there, and it looked so legit. We didn't have any songs other than lyrics on a page and like melodies that I could sing to you, and he could play a drum thing, and maybe, but we couldn't play the songs. Like, we were that green. Bands started sending us demo tapes. Shout out Paintbox. Shout out 200 Proof if you're around.
200 Proof. 200 Proof is a great name.
And they would send us, and we were like, they'd be like, hey, can we get a drink? And like, we'd love to talk to you, because we'd be emailing back and forth.
So they think that you're like a big deal.
They want to sign to, because we have this website, with a counter at the bottom, and maybe
I forgot about the counters.
Exploding Mickey Mouse.
For those that don't know what those counters were, I forgot about that. There used to be a way that like a website would be able to track how many people have visited it, and at the bottom there'd be like a counter.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was kind of a big deal. I completely forgot about that. That's hilarious.
Yeah, incredible, eh?
Yeah.
So. And we would message back and forth with Sandy, who was one of the original owners of Sonic Onion, and he would give us advice on this. He was so nice to us. And then when I was in grade 8, my mom called and saw if I could job shadow at Sonic Onion. So the building, the Radigan building, that's not a few blocks away from my place right here, that just got torn down. That's where they were before they moved to Wilson Street.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I went for my grade 8 job shadow and did stuff at Sonic Onion for the day. And Tim Podsick was there.
Yeah.
And
who's the owner currently of Sonic Onion? Yeah.
And still was an owner at the time.
Yeah, of course.
And he was the first person I ever met in the industry, and I remember he was playing Hayden, Everything I Long For. It starts with that's how the record starts, with Hayden clearing his voice. And I walked in and I heard and I freaked the fuck out. And I looked over and it was just that, and then Tim was sitting over there, and I must have looked like, oh my God, I'm so nervous already. I'm going to this place, and I've just freaked out. And Tim, until last year, had completely forgot about this. Because I then co-opted when I was in OAC, which they remember at this point. When you spend 5 months at a place, they remember you about one day. That's how it all started. But yeah, I was obsessed with listening to songs, but then going, what's my version of this song? Not, I'm going to learn how to play Disarmed by the Smashing Pumpkins, or I could play like the beginning riff of Santa Monica. So it's a little bit of a
I'm kind of the same as you, and maybe for me it's a bit of a cop out where it's like I can't play like Jimi Hendrix, so I'll play his songs, but I'll play it my way as an example, right? But there's a beauty in that I've just kind of embraced, where it's like I'm just like reimagining through my own lens what the song is, and like I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah, maybe that was, I don't know what the mentality was. I think it was part of being in the 90s, and everybody's thinking, I got to be original. You don't, covering songs, you're selling out, or some bullshit probably around that.
Yeah.
And I was just so fixated on melodies and writing lyrics and trying to figure out the secrets. And because of that, I think it took a long way for me to get to writing competent songs, because I wasn't thinking about, I didn't have a million songs that were muscle memory.
Right.
But I'm still like this. I would listen to music all the time. And I'm not quite at the level I used to be. It's, a few hours in the day where it was like the second I would get home, I'd listen
all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, headphones on, walking to school.
And it's funny because if you weren't playing, so like a lot of my time in high school was, and for those listening, we're talking to Adam Bentley here with StereoRuss Inside the Music. When I was in high school, there was like, I was listening to music, but I was playing music a lot too, like hours of playing guitar. So like if that was substituted with music listening, you're just like getting so many more the kind of styles and information.
And I would sit down and play guitar, but I wasn't trying to learn how Neil Young is playing Southern Man. I'd be sitting there and be like, E chord, G chord, C chord. Oh, that fits. Okay, sing something. I have still a bunch of tapes, cassette tapes in the basement. Who knows what's on them? But of me trying to figure out songs that I would record myself and work through songs, like screaming in my basement. I remember playing someone in high school a little bit of this, and it's like, you do this while your family's here? Yeah, I do.
That's me, man. What are you gonna do?
So that's kind of like the origins of this, and it's still what drives me. Like I come out here. Jordan is out here.
For those that don't know, who's Jordan?
So Jordan Mitchell was in the band The Rest with me. We went to high school together. A lot of The Rest went to high school together, and then a couple of their members we met along the way, and we did that for 10 years, and we won a Hamilton Music Award for Album of the Year. So
yes, you did.
So
yes, you did.
Can't take that away from us. Then we broke up 6 months later.
I love that. That's the thing with bands. Like I find, we can get into that another time. But anyway, so you were in a band with Jordan. You won an award, which is now
the biggest award.
Yeah, which is now hanging from.
Yeah, you noticed that it's up
beautiful. There. And then so what? You guys own the studio together, and you also write music together. That's accurate.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So we work on. this project Allegories, which was made in 2008 when the band was taking a little break, and someone had commissioned Jordan to make a noise tape. So noise tapes were a really big thing at the time. So there was, I can't remember what the label was called, but it was Matt Bugner and David Payne, who were in a band called Fossils, had this thing. And they asked Jordan to do that. He said, "Do you want to just make a noise record over the weekend?" And like us, we never make anything easy. Something that would, the Noise guys is all about just like throwing something down, like grimy, dirty, whatever, setting it off. Like, no, we started working on it, and some of these like ideas went in different places, and they started adding these Beach Boys layers that maybe the band at the time didn't have, and but it was still noisy and kind of experimental in approach. And when the rest ended, I thought about what process I liked the most out of ever making music, and it was that one. It was improvise, first take, best take, and then you make another 50 takes to get the magic back. But it was taking something that was a core belief that you had in your musical instincts. And those musical instincts would point you in the right direction. So you're getting this unfiltered area, and then you're trying to refine it in the end. And as Allegories has gone on, the refinement process gets more and more intense. Our process right now, over the past few years, I wanted to start writing songs a little bit more, but also not like overthinking them. So I didn't want to write them on guitar. And you talked about how I got to hear from guitar. And a lot of it was I didn't want to repeat myself, and the guitar was repeating myself.
I know that feeling.
So I started writing these songs on ukulele to still have that. All these songs are written on ukulele. I record them.
That blows my mind that they're written on a ukulele. That seems so far from the final product.
They're written on ukulele. Jordan then takes that, sends the ukulele into MIDI often to kind of get the chord progressions or what they are. Doesn't really reference my vocal. Goes in, starts building his own song on top of that. I then come in, sing a new song on top of that song. Don't reference my original. Don't try to think about my original. And then I go and look at both of them and go, what do these two mean together? And then I build a song out of both of those pieces. And sometimes it's like 90% one part, 10% the other. Sometimes it's 50-50. And it brings out these kind of like magical subconscious thoughts and feelings about songs. And also then it's a work for me then. How do I build this narratively? How do I build this thematically in a way that really resonates emotionally? So when I put it down the final vocal, it's something that's heightened in a way, and I like using the word heightened because it seems occasionally like maybe it has a true base or like an authentic base of emotion. For me, it's supposed to be emotion if you like gave it either I don't know, steroids is probably not the right word, but some sort of exaggerated is the right word. Exaggerated presence. And that excites me too, because I want these emotions, whether it's happy, sad, tongue-in-cheek or whatever, to be a little bit oversized. You know,
in a previous interview I had recently this week, or like last week rather, the conversation was about playing live versus like studio recordings.
Right.
And how a studio recording is like a very upfront, personal, like an intimate experience.
I think I've always loved the studio as the cliched instrument. The studio is an instrument.
The studio is an instrument. It is. It certainly is.
And I like to see how I can push the boundaries of both my voice, my composition level, and also just like things that maybe are exciting to me in the end. That's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing something that makes me come in here.
And we're talking like exciting, not only like sonically, but also like thematically.
Yeah, I'm a very melody person, but I love, like with my voice right now. Usually I record that final voice, and then I run that that final vocal into all of these various pedals.
Okay, so I have questions. About that because one thing I really do love about your vocal treatment is that there's a lot of, the only word I can think of when preparing for this interview was warbly. And I want to know, like, because I'm a fan of the Mars Volta, and I know they do a lot of like layered effects on their vocals, and I'm always like, I'm sure it's just like vibrato, which is totally not true, and like a flanger, but like there's got to be a secret sauce. So like I'm curious to know what you run your vocals through to get that like really textured tone.
So I've been running it through a pedal called a microcosm recently in a lot of the recorders, which is basically a granular pedal, and it will take various aspects and it plays with time. It plays with granular synthesis. It plays with a variety of kind of tone, even and pitch. I like doing that. I like doing taking pitch pedals. The Hedra has been one I've been using a lot.
Are these all like guitar pedals primarily that you're repurposing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I like playing them. So I take it into the space. I'll play the whole track. I'll maybe do a few takes around that, and then from there I go in, and there's like those are just a few pedals, but a lot of different pedals. And I go in and I'm brutal about, does this moment really excite me? And I play it with the main vocal and only the main vocal, nothing else in the track at first. And I'm trying to build an orchestra with all of these different sounds, and
with just the vocal,
and then I do that. I get the orchestra set, and then I turn everything else on, and then I go in and cut even more, because if it's affecting the bed,
right,
it's got to go.
Yeah.
Not to say that after Jordan goes through that process and takes it from ukulele to that, then I'm cutting the shit out of it to build structure.
Yeah.
And then also, I've been on the Allegories record. I played a lot of the instruments alongside Jordan and we didn't have that ukulele process for that one. That was a process that was based on trying to make house songs and disco songs and then turn them into some whatever the fuck we were thinking. So there's guitar is starting to come back into it as well, because now we've been so removed from guitar for so long, but I'm not writing songs still on guitar.
Yeah, and I still can't believe they're written on a ukulele. Like that's me.
Horribly played usually.
But the idea is there. Like the energy is there.
And it took Jordan, I think, a year maybe to get his head around it. I just had this idea. It was like songs for ukulele, mandolin, and bukla was my original thought. And bukla is like a old style. They have this easel synth.
Okay.
And that you can kind of play with your hands. It's not like keyboards. He's kind of like the maybe more open-ended Moog of the figure Bukla, and we don't currently have an easel, which I thought at the time we were probably going to get. So we didn't do that. So they just became. I didn't get him. I didn't play. I didn't write any songs on mandolin. So I wrote them all on ukulele, and so songs for ukulele. This electronic record.
That's great. That's awesome.
And that's what we're working on. And we just put out that song Dreamcrusher. And
yeah, I want to talk about Dreamcrusher a little bit. So like, it's a beautiful song. It's a nice and also kind of like sad song simultaneously, which I love.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I feel like the narrative you're kind of doing kind of shadows a little bit of like your job as well.
Yeah.
You kind of are the dream or like crusher. Like you're seeing dreams. Like you're working with people who have these super lofty dreams, and you're like trying to blend their dreams to like reality. Like, is that an accurate representation? Is that kind of what you're going for?
So the song itself, it didn't originate with that thought. It was very more like, probably, again, like a little bit more of a maybe standard kind of love song or something, and then I like to always just like, how do I make this a little bit screwed up?
Yeah.
And
how can I dent the edges of this thing a little bit?
Yeah. How do I twist it? So even a lot of the songs over the years, people have been like, oh, that's, so romantic or whatever. And I'd be like, if you think about this line, that's a little bit dicey because they're not real representations of exact representation of my life in most cases. There are, of course, examples of that,
Almost
but
like they're allegories.
yes.
Did I use that word properly?
Yeah, I think yeah. So with this song, I've joked for years, for over a decade. So I would get into it, and I become so invested in the projects. I'm right alongside the artist, especially early days when I only had a few releases. I'd be working in a year, and no matter what. And I know this from being on the musician side, even if you're grounded and you have realistic music expectations and you know how this works, in the back of your head, you're going, this could be the one.
This could be the one?
This could take me to the next level, or this could go from 0 to 100 really quickly. And in my time, there's almost no 0 to 100s. I've had a few unicorns, but really it's usually building blocks, step by step, and it gets you to that process. So I started jokingly referring to myself as the Dreamcrusher. Like that's what my business cards should say. And it's tongue in cheek, like that's what I do, but also just like there's no way around that. If you're a musician and you're making something and you actually care about it, that should be the relationship. You should think this is your thing that's going to take you that next level. Or what's the point in putting it out?
Otherwise. And put in the effort and put in the time and do the gigs and all that,
If
right?
not, just stay in your house, enjoy it, make it something you enjoy that's not going out into the world. Because the world doesn't need it if you don't believe that. You might need it as a
Say that one more time. The world doesn't need it
if you don't believe it. If you don't believe that your song and the piece of music you're making is one of the best things you've ever done or is worthy of going to another level, there's no reason to go and push it to an extreme.
Right.
It's not to make it. Everyone should make music that wants to make music. Everyone should create. Every single person in the world should create.
Anything.
But you don't have to have those expectations. But if you
do it for yourself.
If
please.
you do, you should have that belief in your heart.
Yeah.
That it could do this really special thing and could get out there in a way that could be life-changing, even though it probably won't be.
Is that life-changing thing? Is that really special thing? Is it different for different artists?
I think so. Yeah, it's very personal too.
When you have that conversation with artists, say they want to start working with you, is it like, hey, what are your goals for this thing? Or do they ask you like, what can I do with it?
So the first thing I like to do is have a conversation with somebody, and I say, yeah, tell me about your project. Tell me what you want to do. And that's how I like to start. And I get a real good sense of them as people, surprisingly really quick by that. And also I get a sense of what they're after and what they're going for and what's important to them, because every project is different in what's important. This thing that I'm talking about where you have to hit this, you have to feel a certain way, my feeling is different from your feeling, that's different from your feeling. But it's something that you've created something special, and it deserves to be heard. How it's heard, where it's going to get you, what your goals are, they're all different things. Now, in all cases, I am probably, to some degree, the Dreamcrusher, because you'll go through a process of marketing a release, and even in our best scenarios, something isn't obtained that you think was going or you hope, not that you think, that you hoped.
Even in the best case scenarios.
Yeah. You'll never check off every box. And I could go through case studies of the most successful artists in the world, and there would be something that, this part of this rollout, we really wanted to do that, and you couldn't do it. Either time gets in the way, or people didn't view it that way, or you checked off this, and this thing, and the person that was the gatekeeper for that thing turned you away at the door.
Right.
Even though you had all of the things that seem like you're supposed to have it, and for whatever reason, it could come down to an individual's whims or luck. So you can't take those things personally. So when I also say I want to be that person at the same time, because I want people to have those feelings, but also being realistic.
Right.
And the perfect artist for me is someone that understands this is what most likely will happen, but also, in the back of their head says, I hope this other amazing thing happens because I deserve it.
Well, yeah, and like that's kind of the fun thing about, putting music out is there is that hope and dream and the excitement of sharing your music. And the thing that I love about music is it's so personal.
Yeah.
And then when someone else hears something that you've written and it connects with them so deeply, like that is one of the best feelings. It's worth the journey, I think.
And then this is, not to get too sappy here, but it is human connection, right?
I'll say from my own perspective, and oftentimes on the show when I speak from my perspective, there's others who have felt the same, where it's like I'm writing great music and I don't know what to do. And I remember the first time I've heard of you, we were recording. This was 2018, I want to say. We're like, okay, we've tried to release music and we've tried to like get it out to people, and we're like, where do we send this? What do we do? And the guy that we were working with, the producer, he was like, you should go to Auteur.
Yeah.
And we're like, what? What's Auteur? So for those who don't even know, if we could kind of do a very quick, like, what do you do?
So, and this is a changing kind of thing all the time that I do.
Sure.
So when I first started, it was MySpace. That's how a lot of how I got this is I knew blogs and I knew MySpace.
Yeah.
I could get you a bunch of followers on MySpace, real followers with my techniques. And,
okay. All I got is Tom.
And he doesn't even like it.
He doesn't like me.
No.
He's smiling.
He's not a fan.
No.
Tom also, give it up for Tom, living his best life. Realize, like, I don't want to be a part of all these losers here. I don't want to be Zuckerberg. I'm going to go and take amazing photographs, and that's what he does.
Yeah. What
travels the world.
Tom?
Tom sold the company and was like, I'm going to actually have a good life.
That's my kind of tech bro.
Yeah.
So back to the original.
He'll
question.
probably have some terrible things that I don't know about. And the original.
What?
So what do I do?
Adam, what do you do?
So that grew into me doing online PR and press campaigns for artists. And my viewpoint was different, where I was working with bloggers all around the world. So I wasn't a traditional Canadian publicist. I was a guy that could get press in any territory. And I kept looking for new contacts and looking for new ways. And that led me to doing some work with social media. And that quickly led me to playlisting. And
yeah.
I started in 2009. It was about 2015 that playlisting started showing up.
Yeah.
And I started noticing that a lot of bloggers had started playlists, and those playlists started interacting. And then some of our artists were getting hundreds of thousands of plays. And at first, I was always so naive about these changes. And I went, oh, that's great. Somebody must be doing this for them. And then it started happening in a few cases where, like, that band was locked out of their email and doesn't do anything online. I'm the only one pushing this. And they have 200,000 plays. I must be doing something right. And at that point, Spotify was much more open and let us know, like, yeah, we're tracking that. We're tracking these user-generated playlists. We're data mining the internet, so work that you're doing there is going to add up. But there's all these individual playlisters that have nothing to do with blogs or whatever, and they're part of that system. So we started researching them, bringing them into our system. And then we started doing digital marketing, running ads on various social media platforms. And that's led me into doing label services over the last 6 years, which is now probably the most all-encompassing aspect of what we do, and really probably going to be the main focus of the company. Not that we won't do PR campaigns, standalone PR campaigns around songs and albums on their own, but when we're doing label services, we're getting into every aspect of a marketing release. We're talking about distribution. We're talking about DSP pitches. We're talking about social media strategy. We're talking about social media content calendars. We're talking about still PR and press. We're talking about influencers a little bit more these days.
Sure, big time.
We're talking about the short form video you're going to make, how that's going to build out your world. And we're just trying to integrate ourselves into the artist conversation so they know more about themselves, because it's a long journey. Everybody thinks, oh, one thing will go viral and that's it. It really is usually brick by brick.
100%. I see it with like what I'm doing. It's like one go viral and like, that's it, I'm retiring. And you're like, okay, no, that was just like a good moment, right? And then you get a couple good moments and a couple more good moments.
And just keep moving.
Yeah. So I'm a new artist, and I think my music is great, and I'm really passionate about it. My band, we got rid of our drummer, thank goodness. We got a new one. He's super tight.
Nice.
Yeah, good move, right?
Those original drummers are a problem.
Yeah, I got to get rid of that first drummer, get the second one. And then I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. And I'm a bootstrapper, hardworking person. I think I can just do this PR thing on my own.
You very well could. And that's how I got into it, right? Like, I got into it. We had U2's PR person was our PR person at one point, and then they would be sending me back articles that I got. And at the same time, I now know, like, they were also doing a bunch of other things and trying to get us to another level, and some of those things didn't happen. And I understand the business a little bit more. You should find those things as an artist that you can do on your own, especially early days. I hated booking shows. Yeah. And I would have loved for that component to be taken over for me, because it was never like my strength. Yeah. But this side, I've been reading album reviews online since I was 13 years old.
Right. So you kind of
every day.
You knew the well, and to that point, like, you have this breadth of knowledge. Yeah. Right. And it's like, is it worth it for every artist to reach out to someone like yourself, even if they feel like, hey, I can still do it?
It might be a good conversation to have, no matter what. I'm usually pretty open. I don't think I haven't turned down many intro calls over the years, because I feel like I personally, I'd always wished that somebody would have given me that time.
Yeah, you're kind of in that other side. You're like, yeah, you can spend the half hour, whatever it is, to have
it's getting a little bit harder over the last couple of years. But I'm still not turning them down. You just might have to wait a week or 2 weeks or something like that. Yeah. And then you have to assess, like, is this really the thing that I need? Is this not the thing that I need? Part of what we do is not just getting you press and playlisting in those intro campaigns. It's giving you educational tools and feedback from the feedback that we get from DSPs, digital service providers like Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and social media companies like Meta, TikTok, whoever. And that information is for you to run with as well. The artist is the hub. We're augmenting whatever you're doing, even when I'm doing label services and I'm in there. If you're not the person leading the charge, there's probably going to be a problem in 2025. No one's going to do these things for you. I philosophically believe that if they are, there's a problem, because it should be an extension of who you are as an artist.
Yeah, I feel like once you've given that autonomy away to someone else, A, it's not going to come off authentically, and B, like, they're not going to execute it in the way that maybe, like, makes sense for what you're trying to do, right?
And to get to that authentic, honest space, it's going to take time. You're going to have to try things and experiment, because it's not just the music, and that's on music as well, but it's just not on the music side. It's the type of art you want. It's the type of visual aesthetic that fits you. It's the type of content online that you have to make something, but not everything is going to be right for you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try it. The lifespan of what you put online is very short. So if you do something that's not right, it's probably going away. In most cases.
Which, in a way, okay, so there's two sides to that. In a way, it's kind of like disappointing, because you work so hard on something. You're like,
I know.
The world's gonna love it. I can't wait to share this. And then 12 people see it and you're like, oh, that sucked. But on the other side, if you do something and it doesn't land, only 8 people saw it.
The time period we're in, you could just go on and on about things that aren't great about releasing music and being a musician. But what are the things that are helpful? And not being precious, I think, is helpful. And not having to be precious, because the world doesn't work that way now, is extra helpful. I think it was always helpful, but the problem before was, you could splat, and it could be noticeable. Now it's like, that didn't work, well, maybe I'll try this thing today and that thing tomorrow. And if you can meld your creative sense with that, I think that's great. And also find a way that doesn't feel embarrassing to you, and doesn't and feels like a true extension. Because nobody wants to do this stuff. In my conversation with the musicians, no one's like,
no.
So first I want to talk to you about is my love of short form video. that hasn't happened yet.
No. I definitely didn't. When I was like grade 7, grade 8, I didn't pick up the guitar thinking, yep, I'm gonna be a video guy. I'm gonna be doing. It's like you go into it for the music, and then all this stuff is auxiliary, but also necessary. So this reminds me of something that you said earlier in this conversation. You're talking about when you opened up and you had your first website. What is effectively more important, the music or the marketing?
Ooh. I think it's the music still. I do think, but it's a tough question. It's undoubtedly the music for me, in my perspective, because if you don't have the music, who cares? I think there are components that have to go hand in hand at this point, and the marketing isn't as clear. It's not like when I used to do this, it was like, I get on this site, that site's going to get me this amount of people, and you're gold. Now it's like this accumulation of all these random things happening. Small things, medium things, bigger things. But if you don't have the accumulation, you don't get the touch points, you don't get the repetition with people.
That's right.
And then it doesn't connect. So the marketing is this more fluid, mysterious piece. As music and the presentation of artists has become less mysterious, the process is a little bit more mysterious because luck still plays into it. But luck has always played into it. It was like back in the day, somebody was playing a bar and then they come through the door and it's...
Someone from the Rolling Stones walks in.
And they go...
Right? Was that the right... Was that who
I think there's some story about that. But there's a million of these variations, right?
Yeah.
And then because you picked up that show, this thing happened.
Right. And that still, to a degree, does happen.
100%.
Like you don't. It may not be someone from Sony, but it's going to be someone like yourself, or someone who knows someone, or someone who works at a festival, right? Like people are watching.
They're still paying attention, but usually they're, because of the amount of information we're all having to process, which we've never had to deal with this in human history. Mm-hmm. We have no idea the effects of us having to go on a bus, go on a train, see how fast we're processing the information. You'll see it by the swipes. That is changing the way that people are connecting to you as a musician and your music. And it needs a lot of different touch points. But people are out there. They're looking for these things. People in the industry want to find new, cool music that speaks to them. That's true. It's not like a bunch of... Zappa used to say that he liked it when it was just the cigar smoking, chomping on their cigars, these big fat guys saying, just give them money. And it wasn't like the cool hip guys on the other end.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the people in the industry I know are in it for the right reasons. They love music. I
mean, otherwise they wouldn't. Kind of what you had said earlier, like you're in it for the money. Like, it's not, you're not going in this to become, a millionaire, billionaire, right?
Yeah, I was going to say Rockefeller, to be really current.
Yeah. For those listening, we're talking to Adam Bentley here in his studio. And again, just as we kind of keep this rolling a little bit, just thank you so much for taking the time.
No, it's fun.
I like, these are the things that, like, I don't want to say keep me up at night, but I think about often, like as a musician, as someone who loves the craft and also like wants to get music out there. I really think deeply about the relationship between, how media changes and how people take in that information. And I'm curious about your experience with Auteur. You said you started it in 2008?
9. So I started pitching blogs in 2008.
Something that I'm guilty of is like once I come up with something that works in life, I think I just kind of like stick to it. So like I'm just gonna throw a general question at you, and I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Like, at what point did you decide MySpace just didn't work anymore? You know what I mean?
Early.
And I say this in a general question, like when do you know when it's like how on trend do you stay? When do you feel like you need to pivot? Do you kind of wait and see? Are you first adopter of things? Kind of what's your process for going through the transition of media?
That's a tough one because it's a little bit instinctual. I think I've learned from failure a lot. I think that's why I was good at this early days. The rest made a lot of the worst decisions where people would be like, what do you think? But it was like 7 guys that had no connection to the industry, and were also fiercely kind of independent individuals. And so we made a lot of bad decisions because of that. But those decisions, I think we got better, and I got better at the music industry because of that. So with MySpace, all of us, the band held on too long and was like, "Oh, we're not going to make a Facebook account because MySpace. We got 100,000 people on MySpace.
Yeah, we're huge.
Did you hear that, Joe? 100,000 people. But it wasn't necessarily that way forever, right? You could see the numbers trickling back. But with my business, I just would read how artists were also feeling too. What do they think is important? And if you get a sample size of people asking you the same questions, you should go down that road. Now, that road, everybody always asks me about sync. Well, it's a different job than mine. I would have to change my profession in the music industry to be able to do that, because right now it doesn't align with the core of what I do. In 5 years, maybe it does.
Right.
Maybe in 2 years it does. Maybe, I've been talking about rights management recently. There's no way in hell, even 2 years ago, I would have been thinking about rights management. But there's a need there. I know some people in the industry now. I know some tech that might be helping people. So it's all this is something that everyone's going to be like, hey, watching this, can I talk to you about rights management? Look at the date. If it's 6 months in the future from that date, call me about rights management. I probably didn't figure it out.
I love that.
I'm always looking for that new thing to get to what's going to be that interesting thing that's going to be there. I try to pay attention to artists and managers and what they're asking me, and not get too stuck. But also don't abandon things that maybe don't work as well as they used to, but it still have value. Blogs are a great example of that. They have nowhere near the value they had.
They were huge like 10, 15 years ago.
Life-changing, and especially when I was starting. And then 10 years ago, they were still really important. 5 years ago, like, you're starting to see them waver. Streaming had kind of taken a hold, but there was value. And what's been interesting is that value hasn't necessarily changed that much in the next 5 years. They kind of just have held on to a space a little bit. Now, I think that could change again. I think one day I could be on one of these things that someone will reference 10 years from now and say, you said on that thing about blogs, and I'll go, I have no idea. But in a year time, I could be not pitching them. Yeah. And last year was maybe the back half of 2023 was the first year I got more playlists than press.
Interesting.
And then last year it was more. It was like decidedly more playlists than press. This year it's even more. So it's going that direction. But now we're also seeing social media posts pop up for artists and people wanting this program we're on. That's what they call it.
Inside the Music with StereoRuss.
This is a program, and on this program and these type of programs, you talk to Superstar Crush.
I did.
Who we're working with, who are awesome.
Love them.
And that a couple years ago, there wouldn't have been spaces for emerging artists like Superstar Crush that there are now on social, through podcasts, through these long form interviews. But really, a lot of it's going to be that that short form you're making from that.
Yeah, and I think what you said earlier was really interesting. How you're really kind of like leaning into what your clients or the artists you're working for are asking for, right? So yeah, especially people like, I think Superstar Crush is a fascinating one. For those that don't know, you should really go check them out. They're very great. And for as someone who's aging, I've got a big gray in my beard. They're young,
not as much as me.
Well, it's because mine's shorter. The longer it gets, the grayer
That's
it
true.
gets. Yeah. I find it always interesting chatting with younger folks because, you know, if you go to a show and like teenagers are going to want to look at a band like Superstar Crush, who are like
100%.
just a few years older, and they were just recently in school. They all kind of grew up with phones in their hand, where they kind of like, those came to us like Facebook happened after we all graduated, right? So it's like a different kind of beast. And so like, what are you learning? And this might be for the older people out there. Like, what are you gleaning? What are you taking from the younger folks, and like where you think like music and music production and perhaps music marketing is going?
So I think the one thing that's interesting that I've taken the last few years with new bands would have often started by playing shows, and then after and maybe had a release, and then they would have gone back and had an internet presence. They would have done something locally.
Like, oh, now we're kind of an entity, so now we'll go on the internet.
Yeah, and now you have these very well-defined internet presence.
Sure.
And then they get their shows.
Yeah.
Now, Superstar Crush, I think it maybe works in a little bit more of a hybrid of both worlds of the old way of they played a lot locally and they've done that thing.
But you're seeing that a lot more lately with like you have...
They've never played a show. They've never thought about playing a show, but they have these amazing recordings.
Do some of these artists have inclinations and desires to play live, or are they like strictly they want to be
I think they want to play live, but it's built a different way.
I almost feel like it would be hard if you like have... If you're, you can speak to this. If you had like 10,000 followers online, and then you go and play to a show of 6 people, there might be like a bit of a.
Oh yeah, there's like I remember in the streaming era, the first thing we were working with an artist, and they weren't necessarily like a young artist, but they was a beginning of the streaming area, and they had like 15 million plays on the song we were working. It was like a massive success for us. So I go to Toronto, see them play, 2 people.
Yeah,
like other people there, and one's another industry person and me, and it was like, oh, this is passive. No one knows who these people are.
Or even if it's not to disagree, but maybe it isn't passive, but maybe just the medium at which people enjoy that music is digital.
Quite possibly, which I would probably argue
it was passive in that case.
Is passive in that case.
Okay, yeah.
I think if the way people think of digital, like, yes, maybe they know who you are, but you're something they play as not an active participant, is something that you play a lot, but it's kind of just like integrated into your day. Where it's not like we were talking about earlier, where you go home, you put on a record, that's the only thing you're doing.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a band that comes to mind named Coco Roco, who I absolutely adore. They're from the UK. And, you know, I found them through whatever, like, showed up on my feed, and I, like, really fell in love. And then they were supposed to play at the Toronto Jazz Festival, and I, like, went out to, like, actually watch them play. And,
right.
like, at that point, like, there was a clear, definitive change between Coco Roco in my heart and in my mind versus the other bands, because like they were one that I'd actually be willing to go and see.
And that's a different. There are, I think, layers
and
of if you want to call it fandom, super listeners, whatever your tag you're wanting to use. There is something different, and it changes is going to show social thing. It's part of your day to day. I think that's unfortunately happening a little bit less with this generation. It's not really their fault.
It's just like a part of their
experience,
life experience.
Yeah, and they have so many more options. How can you be bored now?
Yeah. I mean, some of the reasons I go out when I was younger was because I was bored at home.
Yeah.
Like, at least even if I don't like the bands, I'm going to go out and hang out. You know what I mean?
Like, it was just a thing. Oh, who's playing Polish Combatants Hall? Okay. I don't know any of those
I have
people.
never heard of them, but my buddy's going, and it's either that or I'm at home.
It's going to be the event.
Watching Everyone Loves Raymond. There's only...
and then after that, you're going to have to watch King of Queens, and then you know that things have gotten real low.
Yeah, that's when you know, like, what am I doing? I'm halfway through a bag of chips. I'm watching King of Queens,
and you're asking Jerry Stiller the same thing. What are you doing?
What are you? Can I tell you my gripe with King of Queens?
Sure.
This is now going to go on the internet for Kevin James to hear. That's a missed opportunity.
Here comes the boom, right?
Yeah, this is the boom right here. King of Queens is a missed opportunity on a great pun. The show should have been him, his wife, 2 girls, like kids, and like a grandmother. It's him and all of the women in his life. King of Queens.
Yeah. Missed it. The only miss in his career.
That's it. That's everything else.
I haven't thought that much about King of Queens recently.
Well,
but I'm glad we're here.
Here we are. Here we are. And for those listening, we got Adam Bentley here on Inside the Music with StereoRuss. If you want to get a hold of Adam, where can they find you?
Email controls my life still, and so adam@auteurresearch.com is the guaranteed way that I will see something and not ignore it. You can Instagram Auteur Research. That often will go to a team member that will then tell you to email adam@auteurresearch.com. It's so wild. Like, I never expected email to kind of work its way into my brain, and that's how I can process everything. Somebody texts me, somebody sends me a DM. We've been DMing. I'm not great on there because it's not part of my day-to-day. I've turned off all my alerts for that kind of stuff.
Good.
And not text, but but still, even if you do that and you say, okay, I'm going to do that, I may not have that button to do that, or if you have a phone call with me, unless I'm going, okay, now I'm going to activate this thing through email, and we have an elaborate system. I have this automatic programmer of like, if you're working for us, in what role, and I put it in, and I put everybody's roles in, and everyone's a color, and it feeds it into a Google Calendar. People look at our Google Calendar and they think, that's insane, because every day there's close to
like all these different colors and things going on.
There's like 70, 80 tasks.
Yeah.
Maybe 100 tasks some days. Wow. And some of them are really short. They'll take like 2 seconds, but there's a reminder. You never miss anything. That's my life. So if you email me, you get put into that life. And if you do anything else, even what you think is a better direct connection, meeting me in person or whatever, you have to follow up. And this is a good tool for artists as well. Follow up.
Sure.
Something doesn't work out, you don't go, oh, they didn't like it. Everyone's busy. You're busy.
Yep.
I'm busy.
Yep.
I'm forgetful more and more every day.
Yeah.
You know, we're humans. I remember that. I'm reminded of that every day. Even if you're using all of these various tools, you can still tell who the human is at the end of the day.
Adam Bentley, the email master. When you first, like, maybe were getting into music and you're starting your career and you're, in your 20s trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do with my life? Like, was entrepreneurship, was this always kind of a thing? Like, were your folks into entrepreneurship, or did this kind of just happen? Like, how do you become, like, music lover Adam to Adam the email machine?
I don't.
Which is not a great moniker, by the way.
Adam the email machine. Coming up, I'll be at the Hamilton Wrestling at the Germania Club next month.
Oh no, here comes the email machine. Watch out.
I'm gonna pitch him. The short answer is I didn't actively think I would have this role. I never thought I'd work in marketing or advertising. I kind of always had a disdain for it growing up. But at the same time,
that's very grunge of you. But
very
continue.
grunge.
Yeah.
I am built for as a teenager in the 90s.
Yeah.
And no, I just I think I've always had a way of wanting to find a solution for a problem and wanting to make things happen, and this worked. This is a problem-solving job. It really is. Every day there's a bunch of things that have to be solved, and you have to figure out the solutions for those. So it made sense. And running the business and starting the business fit into that. And I didn't really know. And I think, my parents were unbelievably supportive too. Sometimes I think, you believed in me too much. This could have gone bad.
This could have gone really bad.
Various times. They were always, I think they always saw, I did have like an obsession, passion, and passion for music. It was so important to me. And almost like troublingly so, I think, at certain points. And they were there, but there wasn't a plan, but it was being open to the changes. And I remember sitting 3 or 4 years into it and going, I think this is the thing. But I didn't have a website for a bunch of years. Like, I think I started Tumblr in like 3 years after I started this. Like, I didn't have anything online. I just would hear from artists and I would do the work. And
you had a spreadsheet, I'm sure, and you kind of.
I had no spreadsheet at first. I had a notepad list. This was all started on a notepad list on a Mac laptop in 2008. I just started collecting blog emails, and I worked through that. They weren't in alphabetical order. They were in random order, and then they were in these groupings that only made sense in my head. And I remember, like, I think we finally. And this is so crazy now, because now if people know me, I'm like ultra organized. Our list is got all these tabs you can filter and do these things. I have that automated schedulers that go out. We have all these like automated things internally to do. I have catalogs of press campaigns from 2014 that are still accessible in there. And
wow.
But I think all of a sudden it hit a scale that I couldn't remember in my head. And once that happened, I had to have these systems. I wanted the system to work like my brain functioned, and I was really good at remembering crazy details about every campaign for a while. And the second I forgot, it was like, oh, I forgot to send that thing out. I had no calendar, no nothing, but I didn't miss anything. And I remember I almost missed like a pitch to somebody that was supposed to happen in like 2013, and I went, that's messed up. And maybe this is, again, back to your question, like, when do you give up on things? When do you have to see signs. And whenever I see signs of like, this is too overwhelming, or this, or, you know, I'm hearing this from my team members or whatever, I try to go, okay, this needs to be fixed. It's like going, that looks like that pipe has a crack in it in your basement.
Yeah, like, let's just ignore it and go in the other room. It'll be fine.
That now is the thing that year you have to fix. And in the music industry now, there are going to be lots of things we have to fix, and lots of things we have to collaborate and work together on. That's the artists as well as the industry people. And it's industry people. I've met with a lot of them over the last few months, people that would have been maybe considered competitors, and I never saw any PR person as a competitor. It was like, if there's an opportunity that you're better at this thing and I'm better at that thing, and the artist wants both of these things, let's do it. Yeah. And now that collaboration is needed because of how spiderweb. So everybody's gone into their like little corners of the spiderweb, and they've built these
siloed in a way. Yeah.
Now, at the same time, what I'm trying to do now, and what I'm hoping to do with Official Community and our tour coming together, is make it in one place. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're not going to go out and go, that person does this thing better. Well, how can they come into this system? I think it's too big to try to create on your own. If you are doing that, you're probably doing a disservice, or you're dumbing it down in a way. And that's kind of the internet.
You're dumbing it down just so you can survive it, when that might not actually be the best approach, where you should actually kind of like iterate and evolve it.
It might not be the best approach, and it might not be. It's definitely not going to be the best for the artist. It's definitely not going to be the best for the industry. You're seeing that in socials, right? Like, they're all becoming sort of shittier copycats and shitification of the internet.
Yeah.
And that's usually from, we want to do all of these things. We used to have specialty places that were so good at that one aspect. And now you're not getting that because it's having to encompass too much.
Yeah.
And maybe those things can bring in more collaborators or whatever to solve that. And I think how social media isn't being completely destroyed is because of the people that are on it, and they're making it more elaborate and focused on what individuals want. But it's hard to fight against human nature to make things easier.
Yeah, the efficiency of the human, like, condition is like destroying us in every
aspect. I have that brain where I want to make things more efficient all the time, and I have to stop myself sometimes going, is this better or more efficient?
Yeah.
Better and more efficient is the same thing, and I've been guilty, I think, sometimes in the past of just looking for efficiency.
I think we all are. I think that's everybody.
Let's not tell anybody.
Yeah.
Everybody, you're doing the best job as you can. You're not just watching cat fail videos tonight. I know you're not.
We got a couple more questions here as we kind of get near the end, and I want to say this one
is coming from the audience. Jerry, you've been here the whole night. You've had your hand up.
Let's see what we got. We got vocal wobble. Check. Tell me a little bit about Michael Kier.
So Mike Kier was the first engineer of the Rest album. So Dan Aiken produced that record, and we recorded it at Catherine North, and we got in there to record the first day. Mike was there, and this was the first record we were recording. He was engineering as the head engineer, and we became close. And in 2006, because I think I know where this is going, Mike said, "Hey, I've got this song, and I'd like you to help me out on this. Would you sing?" And I said, "Sure." And my idea at the time was to make it like a pulp novel and to use all this kind of like 40s pulp novel speak, and I sang on it, did Catherine, and it kind of just sat in a vault. And then last year at some point, he messaged me and he said, "Hey, do you remember that song? I want to finish it." And I said, "This is crazy." And he sent me the song, and the original rough, and then he had a new version, people playing on it. And I said, "I don't recognize this guy. Like that guy, I don't think I could do that again, whatever that was." So I went in the studio, and all I had was letterbox reviews that I had written about noir movies from the 40s and 50s. So a little bit of a switch up on the original concept. And I went in there and I just started improvising and building kind of out of these reviews and narrative and working on it. And it was really like, and also just like screaming in the microphone for the first time in 15, 16 years on this post-hardcore track. And it was a lot of fun, but it was done like in an hour.
Oh, very awesome. And I love the energy of it. And like someone who is into like that post-hardcore at that era, like it made sense when Michael told me that it was written then. I'm like, that makes total sense. And I'm a big fan. So if anyone's listening out there, King Ludd, Trouble, great track. Adam's vocals are on it. He goes wild on it, and it's done by Michael Kier. It's a brilliant song.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a lot of fun on it, and it was great getting to work with Mike. And I hadn't worked together for quite a few years, and we came up together, and that song had such a history, and I felt it's really satisfying that it's finally done 19 years later.
I love it. It's never too late. Never too late to get a song out.
It's never too late, folks.
Question 2. Tell me about fellow radio host Kristen Archer.
Kristen. So Kristen works for Auteur.
For those that don't know, she's kind of, in my opinion, a legend in Hamilton.
She should be a legend. She's I Heart Hamilton.
Yeah.
And I met Kristen because she was doing I Heart Hamilton, I think right when she was starting it.
Yeah.
I think she came out, I shouldn't be telling Kristen's story, but because I don't know all the particulars, but she had graduated, was looking for to highlight, be a tourist in your own town, and she's been such a supporter, an amazing force in Hamilton.
Really has.
And probably about 4-ish years ago, we had collaborated on a bunch of things. I was looking for someone to kind of like up our social media knowledge, maybe get involved in the ad game that we were starting to build up. And I just asked her, like, would you come and do some work with Auteur? And quickly that grew into like a really integral piece. And she's, a main driver of helping to advise and organize our artists on socials, and just like such an amazing relentless person, and you're talking about learning things and not being satisfied. And I always feel bad because I'm always like, hey, can we do this better? Hey, can we do this better? And then she astounds me all the time by coming with these amazing new concepts and ways of doing things. And yeah, been a friend for a long time, and I'm so happy I get to work alongside her. And I would be remiss to mention my whole team.
Thank you for leading to my next question. Can we do a full team shout out?
Yeah. So Ava Muir, who was a Hamiltonian for many years, now is in Montreal. She's kind of our head of PR, or she is our head of PR, and really kind of just is staying up on top of that game, which has become the kind of online press world and playlisting world that is changing all the time, and is such a great communicator and works so hard to make sure these artists are getting the best experiences with all their PR campaigns. And so she's worked with me for about 8 years. And then Anna Alger, who is in Toronto, was in Vancouver previously when she first came on the team maybe 7 years ago. She's the head of label services, works on the distro side, works on a lot of the DSP pitching, excellent kind of functional communicator, making sure we're hitting all our points, getting into granular details with everything that is really important with metadata and things that, pixel information, super knowledgeable. Melissa Natassi does a bunch of kind of freelance contracting work on the press side in New York. She's got a long career, had her own company, Citybird, and has been with us for quite a few years now, and just like finds new ways and new ways of ways of framing articles that kind of like break the SEO bubble down there. And then there's my wife, Tammy Bentley, who's worked with the company many, many years, that is in the background and often isn't in calls and doesn't get shout outs, but she does a lot of our playlist pitching and is so good at kind of like assessing what are going to be the right genres to give people like a better chance at like actually getting heard and fitting the right playlist to the right song. And she also works on a lot of our social media sharing and has kept the finances of the company going for many years, because not my strength, not something I thought I would ever get into. So that's the team, and then there's Official Community, who has so many people we couldn't get into, but they've all been excellent and really look forward to it. But I feel super fortunate to have these incredible people.
Adam, I thought when we were going to start this interview that I'd have more answers, but I ended up with more questions, and that's okay. And I think it's a testament to how complicated the work is that you're doing. And as someone like myself, who's like, my mission is to like make content for artists and kind of like alleviate that stress and do the work. Like, I know where your heart's coming from in the work that you're doing. So on behalf of all, just like, the work you're doing is incredible, and you're demystifying things that are like totally fluid and mystical and challenging, and just keep doing all the great work you're doing, man. It's incredible.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me on. I've been loving everything that I've been seeing you do. It was Luke from the Dirty Nail, who I've worked with for like almost 15 years now. I saw him on this, and I went, this is amazing. Like, these are like really great talking points and conversations, and how did I not know about this? This was in Hamilton. But that's what happens too. That's the repetition point. Right.
I'm 80 some odd episodes in, 300 clips in. So it's like, you just find your way.
Totally.
Right? Yeah.
And I like to demystify, and I like to give power and empower artists and musicians. In a perfect world, they can do a lot of these things themselves and keep control of things as much as possible, and that way they can have a better connection to their music and to their fans, and to if they want to make it a career, don't want to make it a career. All that's fine. Everyone gets their own path in this, and I just like being a little part of it and pushing people along and helping out where I can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Okay.
I don't really have a good send off. Let me try this. You actually did pretty good there.
I just like to go. Ah!